Taxes are the only certainty. Will 20% of be part of society? Yes, I have made it on my own in this world. Will nothing take care of time around a 2-year-old. I'm gonna start the old nation and do my own thing, and I will be king. I'm gonna start the old nation with the self-preservation. I'm gonna start the old nation with the self-preservation. Well, let me talk a bit about the weather. You must admit it's not very clever. Don't get me wrong, it's not an anti-British song. Well, there is nowhere I would rather be wrong. I'm gonna start the old nation and do my own thing, and I will be king. I'm gonna start the old nation with the self-preservation. I'm gonna start the old nation with the self-preservation. There are just a few things that I would like to say about the UK and how I think it has gone astray. Don't get me wrong, it ain't all bad. I love the crazy fads, like England always buggering up, but you know we're gonna win the World Cup. I'm gonna start the old nation with the self-preservation. I'm gonna start the old nation with the self-preservation.
Keep the red flag flying here.
And welcome to I'm Sorry We Have a Clue, where the panel is the antidote to question time, where I will be giving a sensible panel some questions that they're going to answer brilliantly and with a socialist slant. Aren't you glad to be here instead of receiving the normal crap you get from the mainstream media? This is your chance to hear people talking like real people talk. So welcome to the people who are arriving, and see your names just beginning to crop up there. You're really welcome. And just let's say hello to the panel. Laura, hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm okay. I've just sat down, so I'm hoping someone will bring me a cup of tea magically, but I'm okay.
Oh, yes. Well, if he's not listening, he's in a lot of trouble. So we'll get the message. This is a live show, people. You've had computer trouble.
Yeah, it's still not fixed. It doesn't like the Wi-Fi in the house, even though I've got a hub right next to it. I don't know what's going on. Clearly not technologically gifted.
I'm telling you, I spent a lot of time buying more expensive internet packages, and then I found that sort of the problem is when you keep your hub near to your television. It's a really bad thing, apparently.
Right. Okay.
So I was spending sort of hundreds of pounds a year on the internet, and I should have just moved the hub away from the television.
I'll try that. Thank you.
Good to hear from you. Glad that you're here. It's so lovely to be part of the team. Neil, good to see you too.
Hi, John. Great to be here as always. It's my favourite show to come on, you know. In fact, it's the only one I've come on. But it's the only one that I put my favourite aftershave on for as well.
Oh, thank you. Well, when we get smelly vision, we'll appreciate it all the better. I hear you're having computer problems too.
I was, yeah. My websites had lots of problems because the host that I'm with
Useless.
Sorry?
Useless.
Well, they decided to retire the platform that the website was on, and they chose middle of November as a great time to do it. So I had 11 days of no website, no email. No, I had emails for most of it, I've got to be honest. But it was 11 days of battling them to get my website back online. It's not been pleasant. It's been a very stressful 11 days, but thankfully my website's back online and you can buy your calendars if you haven't got them already. Yeah.
Thank you. It's so lovely to see you, and God bless you. Thank you so much for coming on. And Jane, is your computer okay?
My computer's okay. My internet connection's always a little bit dodgy, so hopefully it'll hold out this evening and it'll be fine.
It's mine that keeps crashing sort of without any warning. It's quite good. I listen to film, but then as soon as I get on here, it begins to act up. I smell a rat. It's lovely to see you all. God bless. Let's start with. Before we go any further, Britain is the people asks, what's your website, Neil? Can you give us the URL?
Yep, it's neilterryphotography.co.uk.
All one word, Neil Terry Photography?
Yeah.
That's right. Terry with a double R?
It is. And in fact, one second, I can help you out. It's the wrong way around.
No, it's perfect way around for me. Well done, Neil Terry Photography. Any spaces in that? Just any
only in my head.
.co.uk. And that's a sort of, so check it out, everybody, and buy calendars from Neil. Moment of the week. Who shall we start with? Laura, your moment of the week.
My moment of the week this week was we had tickets to go. Oh my God, actually, no, I've got about 10. Can I do two quickly? I'll do two quickly.
Yes,
I'll be Paul. So one of them was the Easington CLP fundraising dinner that we went to.
Oh, I saw
Saturday
that,
night.
yes.
Oh, it was lovely. What a room of just some of the best people ever. There was obviously Graham Morris, who's Easington MP, who's just socialist through and through and amazing. We're actually getting moved into his constituency soon, so I get to vote for someone I really believe in. Woo!
Hang on, you've left the Labour Party though, haven't you?
Yeah, but I'll be a constituent. I'll have a vote.
you left at the wrong moment. You could have
No, I'm not at the stage where I can knock on a door and tell people to vote Labour. But I could knock on a door and tell people to vote for Graham Morris. So
he's anybody, but go on, carry on, yeah.
yeah, and there was Ian Lavery, loads and loads of people who've been like from Sedgefield and Easington and Durham, who were just amazing comrades. Jeremy Corbyn and his wife Laura were there, spent a bit of time talking to them. I have secured both of them for an Origins show for Socialist Think Tank, so watch out for that. Laura is just, oh, well, he calls her Laura. It's much cooler than mine. She's just, what an incredible woman she is. I can't wait to do an interview with her. So that is going to be huge. The other thing we did on the same day, the Women's Banner Group unveiled a blue plaque on Durham University to the first 3 women to graduate from Durham University. And it was just really, it was another one of those things that we did where we just do the next thing, and then we do the next thing, and we just keep going. And it's not till you get there and actually unveil it, you go, oh my God, we did this. This is really huge. And like people were crying, and it was really wonderful, like really big deal. And the oldest surviving woman graduate from Durham University was there to see it as well, and it was just lovely. So yeah, I've had a couple of really amazing moments this week.
I saw that you'd been to a very posh dinner. I mean, you're mixing with the high tights, aren't you? Really, at the moment.
Well, that was the the night before we went to the dinner at St Hills College, which is where the blue plaque was going up. So we were invited along to speak to that. Very posh, that one. I felt very working class at that dinner.
Not at the outside, work your way in. The loveliest thing about the dinner, I thought, was seeing the photographs of Mary Dixon with Jeremy. What if you're listening to me and Laura just chewing the cud?
I haven't been on for a while. I'm allowed a few extra minutes.
So those people who are listening in, what you have to understand is that my late wife and her friend Mary Dixon, my golly, they were Jeremy Corbyn supporters. Absolutely huge Jeremy Corbyn supporters. And Mary got, and there's all these photographs of the poor guy pinned in a corner with Mary telling just how much she loves him. Sort of, thank you, Jeremy, for all you've done for my wife and Mary.
Ooh.
And you got to find out. Wonderful. Thank you for those moments of the week. Wonderful moments of the week. Neil, I'm glad you've come back. Moments of your week.
I've got 2 small ones. The first one is I was at a Labour Party fundraiser on Thursday night for Richard Bergen for his constituency. And he had a keynote speaker who was Andy Burnham, the Mayor for Greater Manchester. And there were some bits I agreed with his speech, but some bits that I really didn't. But the one bit that I really liked that he said, well, there's two bits. The main bit was he spoke about the fact that in Manchester they're building council houses, but they're not just building ordinary council houses. They're building them to the highest specification, so that as much as there can be zero emission. So that not only will people have cheap places to live, or rather cheaper, they'll also be cheaper to run the homes as well. And he finished speaking about that by saying that that's a policy that the Labour Party should adopt as a good forward-thinking solution to the housing crisis of today, which I think all of us would probably agree with that. And the other thing he talked about as well is in Wales, Mark Drakeford, the leader in Wales, there has introduced essentially universal basic income for children that are leaving care. So I think it's for 3 years. I think it is. They get financial support from leaving the care system, and that'll be groundbreaking. If hopefully it will be, because of course the amount of children that leave the care system that end up with alcohol or drug problems, end up in prison, etc., it's a national disgrace. It really is, but no one talks about it because there's such a stigma surrounding people like me that are care leavers. So we're not able to speak out and say, look, the system is broken. Well, the system's not working. But I think what Mark Drakeford's doing, and the fact it was raised in Leeds as well to quite a decent round of applause, I think the message is maybe starting to get through just a tiny little bit. But also on Thursday, I was at Doncaster, or rather in Doncaster, to see a steam engine come through, Sir Nigel Gresley. First time I've seen that particular locomotive in steam, coming through its home city where it was built. And it's an A4 class. And as it happens, if you don't know what that looks like, there you go. And I love that curve over there, over the wheels. If I can get it a bit closer for
Yes,
you.
we can
There
see.
you go. It's just such a gorgeous class of locomotive. It's the same class as the Mallard, by the way, the world's fastest ever steam engine. So to see that for the first time I was actually quite happy about that, and hopefully it'll be the first of many times I see it.
Thank you. Yeah, I've seen Sir Nigel Gresley, and he came with all the others to the railway museum at Shildon. Just fantastic, absolutely.
Yeah, was that for the Great Gathering in 2014? Was it where they had all seven of the?
That's right. Was it 2014?
Yeah.
Gracious me, I didn't think it was that long ago. Just unbelievable, and such a celebration. My CLP, going back to homes that are cheap to live in, my CLP passed a motion and sent it off this week to about energy. And one of the things that we said was that every new home ought to have solar panels on, so it's making its own electricity. It's crazy in this day and age that we're having to buy electricity from outside. We can make loads of it ourselves. Why not? Why are we not doing it? Thank you very much. I saw that thing about Andy Burnham and Richard Bergen, and really good. Well done, Andy Burnham. Moment of your week, Jane Strange.
So actually, my moment of the week was Hilary Powell and Dan Edelstein, the brilliant people who did the Bank Job film, where they brought up subprime debt and destroyed it, so they wrote off people's debts. They've now got a project called Power, and they're trying to turn their whole street in London solar. So for the last 4 nights, they're sleeping on the roof of their house in all weathers, protected by some plastic sheeting, and they're staying up on the roof until they are replaced by solar panels, and they're crowdfunding to get solar panels onto the roofs of the first 30 houses on the street. They're brilliant, and I think I shared a post on Socialist Think Tank Southeast yesterday if anyone wants to have a look and find where you can find out more about them.
Thank you. If you could put a link, I know I couldn't do this. I couldn't do 2 things at once, but you're all young and brilliant. If you could put a link up on the show, that would be just lovely. Thank you very much. Right, let's have a look at your moments of the week. Ian Byrne got reselected is one which is coming up a lot. I'm not excited about that at all. It was far too close. This is man who was MP of the year. He's absolutely brilliant. He's the man who brought in the right to food. The fact that he should even be challenged is evil. And the fact that how did he get the hands on all these people who sort of never go to any meetings, sleepers out there, and yet they leap up and try and get rid of anybody decent? Outrageous. Well done, Ian Byrne. Fought him off, and so you should do as well. A number of people coming in about. I can remember when we were on Durham County Council, we were dreadfully aware of the terrible outcomes for our children leaving, and we had to we tried a whole load, but it was just dribs and drabs trying to hang on to them, trying to help them in the first few. We gave them a job guarantee in the end, but universal basic income would be a brilliant thing. Leanne didn't have one till I saw a video of Mick Lynch calling out a Daily Mail journalist He was absolutely destroyed, as Mick pointed out, the Daily Mail supporter of the black shirts. Jake Ratcliffe, oh, I saw your resignation, Jake. What a loss to the Labour Party. You are. How stupid they are to and there's many like you just giving up because they're fed up. And yes, absolutely. When you walk out on something that you've been like banging your head against a brick wall, a weight off my shoulders, says Jake, and I don't blame him. Solidarity, Jake. People are saying. Going to Leeds. Kirsty Smith went to Leeds and saw that. Here's the link to check out the Power Project. I can't remember that number, Jane. Paul Daly. My moment of the week, says Paul, is Farage saying Labour is to the right of the Tories. Nigel Farage, if you're not aware of what that's about, Nigel Farage has congratulated Keir Starmer on his anti-immigration stance and said that now that Labour to the right of the Tories on immigration, he might vote for them. It's sort of so funny. And hang your head in shame. But there we go. Righty-ho. Moments of the week done. I think it's time for...
Now it's time for the big story.
The big story this week is what I told you it was going to be last week. We had a number of stabs on what the budget ought to say, and then I said we'd be talking this week about what it actually did say. Neil, curate's egg. Some good bits.
Well, the first thing I want to say is I hate it being pronounced Farage. It's Farage, like sausage and garage. It's Farage. But anyway, in terms of the budget, I mean, I really don't know what to say about it. I mean, in reality, it was a budget designed to punish us because of what the Tories did. You know, they keep setting it against a backdrop of, well, you know, we've got to do this. The markets are dictating that we do this. They never specifically say which market. I mean, my local fruit and veg market weren't saying it, so you know, I don't know which market it is, but what they never mention is anything to do with you know, the mini budget under Liz Truss, whoever she is. You know, she didn't stick around for long enough for anyone to remember her, but a legacy's there. And I think he did actually compliment his predecessor on stuffing up the economy. So, you know, that's a really good thing. But I think so. I've looked at what this government is doing to punish us. So what the first thing they're going to do is raise council tax by 2%, because currently local authorities can only raise council tax by 2.99%. Anything above that, they have to call a local referendum, and of course we know how much the government love referendums. But they're raising it now to 5%. Now, whether it's 5% or 4.99, I'm not certain, but it's approximately 2%. There's going to be a further £71 billion of government cuts in government departments between now and 2028. So only 6 years to go. And of course, currently in the government, the NHS and social care is protected, as is defence spending. So, you know, it's going to be many other departments, such as, for example, the DWP, that's going to take the biggest hit. The one announcement was that he raised the national minimum wage by I think it was 92 pence per hour. but because he's kept the threshold the same level for the
Income tax.
because he's kept the the same level, the threshold the same level for where people start paying it. Actually, they'll find those people that are on minimum
Right.
will
Not income
actually,
tax benefit.
yeah, they'll end up worse off because of that. Also, our energy bills are going to be raised by a further £500 for the average home, or average tariff, or average cost, whatever. And of course, there was no mention of clawing back anything of the £170 billion that they gave to energy companies just literally 2 months ago to freeze our energy bills for 2 years. So, of course, I mean, they've now had a massive windfall, but that windfall, there is going to be a windfall tax rise on those energy companies. But of course, at the moment, those energy companies can say, well, actually, we're investing those profits in infrastructure, and it gets them, I think it's 95% reduction in the tax. So essentially, unless you close that loophole, it's meaningless. They might as well have a windfall tax of 100% because they can get out of it by saying, well, we're investing. One strange one, given the fact that we have a climate emergencies, that they're going to cancel the exemption on electric cars.
Yes.
So that they're now going to pay road tax, which has always been the incentive for many people to get an electric car, because you don't, the money you pay for charging it, you save on the road tax. And even though I don't think road tax is that much, I don't know, I don't drive. So that was the one that was strange. But the most sinister thing that Jeremy Hunt, sorry, Jeremy Hunt the Shunt, came out with was he's basically threatened universal credit claimants that if they're working only around about if they're working about 15 hours a week, they've got to find more work, or they will face a sanction. And also that they've got to find the time and the expense to go and see a work coach once a week. Now, I don't quite know what a work coach is, but I imagine it's a bit like a bus. I don't know. I mean, maybe people could get a job being work coach drivers, maybe. I don't know. And thanks to John Dunn for that gag, by the way. But there's nothing funny in this, and that's this is about punishing some of the most poorest people in our society.
Yeah.
It's by threatening with sanctioning, they can go for up to 6 months without any income whatsoever. And let's not forget, people always automatically assume that people on universal credit are people who aren't in work. It's something like 60% of universal credit claimants are actually in work. They just don't earn enough to be able to survive on. So
I just interrupting you, Neil. I was at a conference on rural poverty this weekend, and one of the big issues there was that when you live out in the countryside, you can't afford to go to the DWP office. The cost of the bus fare is prohibitive just to visit the DWP office, and sort of the universal credit system was absolutely slammed. It takes with one hand, gives with one hand, and takes away with the other. I found out that if you a student and you get a student loan, they make you pay them your student loan. You have to pay that. That it's the student loan goes to the DWP because it's counted as excessive income.
It's about trapping people in poverty. It's about making them desperate, so that they become absolute pawns for capitalism. That's really what it's about. As somebody said in the chat, a work coach is someone who punishes you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree with that entirely. But things when it comes to the wealthy, what an absolute change that Jeremy Hunt did. So, for example, he refused to implement VAT on private schools, arguing it'll push more children to state schools. I mean, the horror of that. Imagine that. If it's that bad for them, why is it okay for us? But that came around. The refusal to implement VAT on private schools came about as a result of lobbying from private schools.
Yes.
Obviously enough. But you can't help but link that to the fact that the government's going to cut £1 billion, £1 billion from the school maintenance budget. So that there'll be plenty of kids that this winter that'll be in freezing classrooms, with broken windows, ceilings hanging down, damp on the walls, etc., etc. So whilst he's not going to raise any money for wealthy schools to pay anything, he's actually taking it away from our kids. You know what I mean? And actually, in 2020, why are kids in classrooms in the sixth richest country in the world that are, quite frankly, disgraceful conditions for kids? But also, in addition to that, Jeremy Hunt hasn't increased any funding to tackle tax avoidance and fraud. Even though there's been billions of pounds of fraud over the last few years through the government. But what he has done is increase the budget by 3 times the amount spent on tax avoidance to tackle benefit fraud, even though it costs the economy, pittance in reality compared to tax avoidance. But again, it's about stigmatizing. Is that you're on benefits, you must be defrauding us. And he also failed to close the tax loopholes that, as I said, are on for energy companies paying windfall tax. And he also failed to implement taxes on non-doms, which of course would include
Right.
Sorry?
His wife.
Yes. So who very kindly said that she will start paying taxes on a voluntary basis. I mean, how wonderful is that? I mean, I don't know about you, but I pay my taxes voluntarily as well. But if I don't pay them, I end up in prison. It's ridiculous. What? In reality, it wasn't a budget statement. It was a war declaration. It was a declaration of war on the poor. It was a class war. That's what Jeremy Hunt did. We are paying for the absolute incompetence of this government, and they still turn around to Labour on politics shows and say, "Well, we are the part of the financial fiscal responsibility. Labour haven't got any plans." Well, where was your plans for all of this? You know what I mean? It's like nobody foresaw what was going to happen until you did it. So it's like, it wasn't a budget statement. It was a declaration of war, and we have to see it as that. And do you know what? We have to take to the streets. We have to join unions. We have to become active in those unions. We have to free and well fight back, because do you know what? No one's going to do it for us. Mick Lynch is fantastic. He's wonderful. He's brilliant. But we need everyone to be like Mick Lynch. We need everyone to step up. If it's one person, they'll slap you down. Let's all become Mick Lynch, and let's all stand there together and fight back. Because it's like I keep saying this every time I'm on here. I don't want to change a government. I want to change a system, because Labour aren't offering any alternative to this. With the massive the mini budget, the massive fallout from that. All that Rachel Reeves said was that she wouldn't have done it as quickly. She didn't disagree with it. She said she wouldn't have done it as quickly as the Tories did. So yes, it's a class war, and we all have to step up and fight.
Thank you so much, Neil. God bless you. And brilliant statement, and really helpful information about the budget, much of which didn't make the mainstream news and certainly didn't make the Labour response. God bless you. Thank you so very much indeed for that. Rather takes the wind out of my sail for your question, Laura, which was sort of the TUC said they are making working people take the hit for the own create the crisis they created. Sort of. What did you think of the budget? I mean, did you see any good in it? Were there good things that you saw?
I think it was a very, very competent display on how to use language correctly to get people on side. I think coming from a point of view of I've sort of taken a step back from politics and even watching the news for a while, so it's very easy for me to see how these things can be sort of fashioned in a way that people come and go, well, do you know this was really good actually? Do you know he said this and he said that? And actually a lot of my friends said, did you see it? It was really good. And like Neil mentioned there, the exemption of the road tax for electric vehicles. One of my friends was like, how good is that? And I was like, well, I'd argue it would be better if you just got rid of road tax altogether if you're worried about making things equal. Don't tax people more, but also electric cars are really expensive, so if you can afford one of them, then I think you're going to be all right for a few extra quid. But it's just the way they were sort of labelling everything. They used the right phrases. Everything was really done very well, very stylishly to make it look like they were given something back. When in actual fact, they were not given a penny, nothing. It was very, very much a budget that had no tax on the wealth of the country at all, and instead
they've reduced in fairness, Laura, they've reduced the level on the 45p, haven't they, from 150,000 to 125,000.
Yeah. I mean, yes, but they've just kept open every single loophole going. They'll do what they always do. The TUC's statement, as you said, John, it's a tale as old as time. They could print that after every single budget that has ever happened. They just word things differently. The majority of people I used to know when I was younger, before I had any clue about politics, was how much has alcohol gone up by, how much have cigarettes gone up by, and that's it. So no one's really looking at where we could get the wealth from the wealthiest people in this country to make everything. There's no reason our NHS shouldn't be fully funded and as incredible as it could be. There's no reason that our education system shouldn't be at its absolute best. We shouldn't. Kids shouldn't be in dilapidated classrooms. They shouldn't still be in those little metal huts that were just supposed to be temporary but have been there for 25 years. All of this is avoidable and it is possible, and it wouldn't be something that is far-fetched because we have billionaires in this country. We have billionaire businesses in this country, and that wealth is being hoarded. You can earn more from this budget by having money than you can from actually earning it. And I just think that is an absolute failing of any government, and one that we've seen consistently over many, many, many years. It never changes. It just gets packaged up differently.
Do you think that, I mean, my view of it, if you want my kind of thing, is it's been a tremendous success. It's quietened the market, but particularly all the people I've been hearing talking about it, older people in particular, they've been saying things like, oh, well, can you remember when we used to wake up and there was ice on the windows? We've been here before. We know how to cope. We'll just have to buckle our belts and tighten our belts. And sort of, he really has, don't you think, called off the heat on the Tory party. It was a tremendous success as a piece of fatuous propaganda, surely.
Absolutely. It was a masterclass in it. But the Tories are very, very good at doing that, and there's a reason why they have so many leaders. They think having a new leader washes away all the problems that the previous leader had done. The leader is just a figurehead, doesn't make all the decisions. They have a cabinet to sort of, sorry, that's my dog trying to get in. They have a cabinet to sort of create and craft all of the decisions that get made. Just because they've got somebody standing at the front who's new doesn't mean it all goes away. And yet people still buy into that. And it is, we just need to find a way to say, they're going to fix all of these problems. Hang on, these problems that they created for the past over a decade. And then still they go, yeah, well, the Labour Party did this in 2009. And it's just like, well, okay, right. you don't want us to think about the past, but you're not thinking about the past.
13 years ago that was, and I was talking to Kate Green was at this conference I was at, and she was saying that the biggest mistake the Labour Party made was fessing up to the crash of 2009. It was nothing to do with the Labour Party. It was certainly nothing to do with Labour Party spending, and yet we just gave the baton to the Conservatives, and they're still beating us with it. Finally, Jane, Laura's just answered your question, sort of about, you know, it being how successful it was. I mean, my question to you, therefore, Jane, is there anything we can do as ordinary people except just watch the Tories taking back the initiative? Is there any how do we react as ordinary people to this monstrosity of a budget?
So I don't think there's a quick fix, but what I would say is to do everything you can to show support for the RMT workers and the Royal Mail workers, the nurses and NHS staff who are going on strike at the moment. And I don't say that just out of ideological reasons, because I think that we should support them. I say that because it is crucial that these workers are not allowed to be crushed. If the standards within those industries are crushed in the way that those employers are trying to do at the moment, that is a terrifying prospect. I know things feel awful now, but they will be much worse for all of us if those industries are crushed and the standards are lowered to that extent. So I think in the shorter term, do that. And then in terms of the Labour Party, I'm really disappointed in them. I'm finding it very hard to be enthusiastic. I do think they're offering something a bit better than what the Tories are offering, though, you know. So if there is an election, I would say look at what's out there. There are new parties there as well. Just listen, try and look into what people are saying. And there are some really good MPs as well. You know, if we had a whole parliament full of Ian Burns, you know, with his Right to Food campaign, or Richard Burgon's or Zara Sultana's, we would be in a much better place. So those people are out there, and look for them and, you know, support them with your vote if you get the opportunity.
Brilliant, Jane. Thank you. Kirsty Smith's, I'm going to run these past you. Kirsty Smith's answer: cause trouble. What do you think of that as a solution, Jane?
It depends on what you term as trouble, doesn't it, really? I mean, Extinction Rebellion are causing trouble to gain attention for a very important cause, so I suppose that's maybe a good thing to do, but I don't know.
Dig holes in cricket greens and things like that. Go back to your suffragette roots and sort of set fire to letterboxes. Mind you, there's going to be no letters in them, so that was the time to do it. Mark Lungley, hang on. Britain is the people. One thing I believe will be a good outcome of this: stop buying Christmas presents, be present with family and friends this Christmas, bring down capitalism.
About small businesses, because as you know, socialists, there's this Tory myth that that they're the party of business, they're the party of big corporations. Socialists support small businesses, don't they? It's, you know.
So buy small, buy local, buy honest.
Buy my calendar.
Buy Neil's calendar. Avoid Amazon. Oh, that's going to be really hard. Okay, hang on. Right, thank you very much. And those things are for our last discussion. I'll leave them. Right, Laura, we need to move on. Now, team, we've got 20 minutes. That's 10 minutes each question. So that means at the most 3 minutes each. Okay. So there's a little clock in the bottom right-hand corner of your computer screen. So when you start talking, stop 3 minutes later. Okay. I'm going to move on. Laura, the CWU strike. Tell us all about it. Tell us what's going on.
In 3 minutes. Okay. Okay.
I'll
So
tell you what, I'll give you 5 and I'll make the other 2 coping 2. There you
okay.
go.
I might be able to whistle stop it. It's fine. Yes. So the Communication Workers Union is out on strike. There's been loads of different strikes, the BT workers and all of that. The particular one at the minute that we're talking about is the Royal Mail Postal Workers strike. They have had a 2% pay rise imposed on them, so that wasn't even run past any of their unions. In addition to that, the bosses have sort of added targets. They want people to sign up to less terms and conditions and things like that. So obviously the trade unions were going to get involved. They've been on strike previously. We've all had the cups and the posters in the window and everything, and we're all on board. I think the worry, I think especially the CEO Simon Thompson is starting to feel like, okay, we're coming up towards Christmas, they're gonna lose public support, so let's bring them back to the table. Let's give them. They've said that they've offered their best and final offer has just been offered in the last sort of day. So they've had 2%. They're willing to go up to 9% over the next 18 months rather than what they originally offered, which was over 2 years. I think the CWU are sort of considering it at the minute. This is an 11th hour deal, so no response has been given yet. Although what I will say is if you go onto the CWU's Twitter page, it is absolutely rammed with people out on massive picket lines all saying they vote no confidence in Simon Thompson as the CEO of Royal Mail. It is just spectacular the amount of people they've got out, and I think actually they've got the public still on side as well, even though they have planned strikes on the end of this month. They've got a few days and throughout December, which of course will cause a lot of problems for people who want to buy Christmas presents online and things like that. And I do think sort of Royal Mail are going to try and use that to their advantage. But yeah, it's this. They're basically now saying that they're going to be reducing sick pay. They're not willing to commit to no redundancies, a reduction in terms and conditions, all of these things that they want to sneak in. It kind of feels like they're trying to make Royal Mail not the institution it has always been, but actually more like the gig economy.
Yes.
Which is just unacceptable. All these people who've worked these jobs just really do deserve better. They really deserve our compassion, our support, our solidarity. We need to be getting out on picket lines. We need to be vocal about this as well, because mark my words, Royal Mail will take this as a win if the public don't come out in force in support, because they'll just go, oh well, your bairns won't get any toys at Christmas, how awful are these people out on strike, and we will end up doing that narrative, and it's really pathetic and useless and unhelpful. And so we need to just make sure we're flying our flags for the CWU in solidarity with all the striking workers, and I hope they get what they deserve.
Right, Leanne, the strikers are affecting my little business. I take it on the chin because I support them 100%. Brilliant, thank you. That is unbelievable. Royal Mail had gate meetings today. They overwhelmingly, says Leanne, had a vote of no confidence in the CEO. I mean, what the Canaries is calling out, Jane, is that Royal Mail declared a profit last year of £738 million. Now they're trying to pretend that they're losing £1 million a day. So there's clearly gross incompetence if that's the case. I mean, is this just Royal Mail sort of head like the miners in the 1980s? This is the strike that we're going to destroy and break the spirit of the workers. Do you think they're just sort of leading the anti-trade union movement here, or do you think that sort of there's any justification in what's going on? I mean, they're clearly trying to just reduce. Laura's right. They're trying to reduce the workers to a gig economy. What's your take on all this?
I don't think there's any justification at all for the things that they're inflicting on employees. I think some members of the public, because the media goes with this slant, will say this is all about a pay rise and they just wanted more money. But this is not about a pay rise, however inadequate the offer is in terms of a pay rise of 2 or 3% during a cost of living crisis with 14% inflation. Actually, what this is about is a huge reduction in the working terms and conditions for those employees. With, I think, was it Kirsty put in the chat, shift patterns are changing, so those with families are going to have to look for other jobs. So if you went, if your employer tried to impose this on you, suddenly told you you were going to be working different hours to what you're working, people have got lives and families, they're going to take away the premium on the Sunday working. There are people relying on their incomes. They're cutting the sickness benefits, and that word benefit actually bothers me because we all get ill, but we've all still got rent to pay. We all still need to feed ourselves and our families. We should be allowed to be ill. If you've worked for a company and worked really hard, why should you not be allowed to be ill and still be able to live? So this is a huge attack on them. And what I was reading too in the Canary was that one of the things that was imposed in the deal offered at the last minute on Saturday, and if that's the best they can do, I can't imagine how appalling the previous offer must have been, but was to remove the CWU from the workplace and reduce their influence with the workforce, so that the employees effectively have no influence or power of collective bargaining going forward to be able to secure good terms and conditions. The directors are getting around the table and they have the power to collectively talk and put together something they think is right for the company. Why is it not okay for the workers to do the same thing in that situation? And why have we got really well paid people at the top of that company being paid hundreds of thousands of pounds, and they're offering poverty wages to people on the ground who've worked through the pandemic, risking their lives and their families' lives, working on sociable hours, whilst these people at the top, just cream off the benefits and take the profits out of the company. And it's their job to manage this company profitably. If they're not doing that, they need to look at their ridiculous CEO and
not at
top
the
management
expense of the
salaries.
workers.
Yeah.
Some lovely comments here. Kirsty Smith says, shift patterns are changing. It'll mess up families. We need to be fundraising for them so they feel supported. Catherine Mary Stevenson says it's the right time of the year to get the point across. Mark Lungley, buy your toys on the high street. Go down to the high street and buy the toys there. That'll do a lot of good for high streets as well. And it means that you won't have to rely on the mail. Mark Lungley, sick pay, not a benefit. I'm horrified at the talk of deunionising the workforce as part of the deal. Milk the Cow, where was that? Milk the Cow are doing a Milk the Cow, we're doing live from the picket line on the 24th. So look out for that, everybody. Last comment, Neil. They are going to mess up people's Christmas postcards, Christmas cards. I mean, sort of, Laura didn't think that this would, but feared it might. What do you think? Do you think this will lose the post's support, or do you think people will be able to see through it?
I think people, hopefully, people see through it. I mean, we've got a cost of living crisis at the moment. I mean, I know people haven't sent Christmas cards for years. I personally haven't sent Christmas cards in a long time, mainly because of what's the point? I've never understood greetings cards anyway. You go out and buy a card from, I don't know, maybe a couple of quid. You post it to someone, they put up on the mantelpiece for a day or two, then they put it in a drawer for the rest of eternity. I don't get it. It's I just, my mind can't get that concept. So
I'm going to interrupt you, Neil. The Christmas cards occurred because people couldn't be bothered to write letters. They always used to write letters, but then somebody came along with Christmas cards, and you could send a Christmas card, and you didn't actually have to sit down and write a proper letter. Maybe we need to go back to buying presents on the high street and writing letters to people.
I agree. Not only that as well, but I think there'll be a huge reduction in people buying presents this year anyway because of the cost of living crisis. I mean, Karl Marx said in Wage Labour Capital if your workers can't afford to buy the products that they're making, then then your economy will start to break. In fact, he said capitalism will start to break, and that's the situation that we're now in. But one thing that I'm
Last
doing,
comment, Neil.
on all of my outgoing mail, I'm putting these stickers on all of my outgoing mail. So as it goes through the system, it's very clear in saying that. Even to people who are ordering things that are nothing to do with anything political, I'm still putting it on there. It's me posting it, so it's up to me when I put it on the envelope.
Thank you. Please forgive me, everybody, for being so rude to my panel. but sort of the last topic is really important. It's Awaab Ishak, that poor boy who died because of the appalling conditions he was living in. I know that Neil Terry wants to go off on one about accountability, and sort of Jane, a defining moment I was read in one newspaper. Do you agree?
I wish that it was, but it depends on how you're looking at it, because I'm not sure that anything's going to change. I don't know what it's going to take for us to do something about this situation in this country. I know it's a completely different tragedy, but Grenfell happened 5 years ago now, and nothing has been done. The horror of what happened. Nothing's even been done to protect other people. And this situation, this awful situation that's caused the death of this child, it's not a rare thing. It's really common, actually, and it's been well known for a long time that it is. Shelter released a study last year that said that a quarter of all renters are affected by damp and mold, and 1 in 5 their health is being affected by their poor housing conditions. This is causing a huge burden on people's physical and mental health. And and if you want to look at it from an economic point of view, probably a huge burden on the NHS. There's every reason for the government, just out of common sense, to sort it out if they care so much about reducing the deficit. But there's too much influence from people making far too much money out of a housing system that is absolutely not fit for purpose. It's there to make huge profits, to make people. It doesn't matter if people are homeless. It doesn't matter if people die. It doesn't matter if they're physically or mentally ill because of the conditions they're living in. I don't know what it's going to take to change that, and I really wish that this little boy's death will be the thing that does that, but I don't think it will.
I mean, the social housing regulation bill is going through at the moment, and they've called that Awaab's bill. But I mean, don't you find it appalling that we should have to be having a bill to regulate social housing?
ITV did an expose on the terrible conditions in social housing. Having lived in private rented accommodation for the last 20 years, I initially thought this was a private problem because I've seen so much of it in the private sector. But the ITV expose, if you look it up online, absolutely horrendous conditions that people are living in social housing, and it seems to be just as bad there. Really awful.
Neil, accountability.
Yeah, where is it? I mean, I mean, the thing for me is that I mean, I agree with everything Jane's just said. That was brilliant. But again, I mean, no one's been held accountable for what happened at Grenfell either. But for me, the thing that really gets my goat about this, it's yet another child that has died, where authorities were aware of the issues but failed to act. Now, to be fair to Rochdale Council, the child was referred, well, the family as well as the child was referred to social services, and they went through the prevention and help service within the council, which would have been the appropriate thing for them to do, and they kept raising the alarm to say, look, the conditions that this family live in are really bad. But the housing association took absolutely no action at all. Now, the Rochdale borough-wide housing will argue actually the former CEO now was held accountable because they sacked him. But they didn't sack him when the verdicts came out. They didn't sack him when the evidence was put forward. They didn't sack him when they realised there was, God knows how many complaints made about it, and that the health of Awaab was failing. They only sacked him when there's a public backlash. That isn't frigging accountability. And the one thing that really gets my goat is this, right? I am tired of CEOs on extremely high pay, on best part 200 grand, who are paid that amount so that they have huge responsibility, apparently. But yet when it goes wrong, there's never any accountability. Well, if there's no accountability, there's no responsibility, because you can't have one without the other. They go hand in hand. And the reality is this really strikes a chord in Bradford. Because in Bradford, there was a child called Star Hobson who was murdered by her family, by her mother's partner, and the verdict was last December, I think it was. Now, although the cause of the death and the reasons were completely different, actually the concerns being raised, no accountability. I mean, nobody in Bradford has faced any accountability at all over the fact that the social services and West Yorkshire Police failed to act on family concerns time and time again. Arthur Labinio Jones in, I think it was Wolverhampton, I think it was somewhere in the Midlands. Again, no one's been held accountable for that death. We can go through hundreds and hundreds of children that die with no one being held accountable when the concerns are raised. And it's one thing that really angers me. And I think that, do you know what? We need change. And that change will only come about when quite frankly, these CEOs are up on charges in court, and held criminally liable for their organisations not doing the right thing. And I was speaking to someone over the weekend who made the point of, well, actually, then it'll be harder to recruit to these positions. Well, good. I want people who've got some passion and some drive into these positions. I don't want a corporate bloody empty suit. I'm tired of them. You know what I mean? So good, if it doesn't attract them, good. But the reality is we need some accountability, and I'm tired of hearing the same phrase over and over again, which is lessons will be learned. Someone's died as a result of this. It's not a learning experience. It's not a learning curve. If I go out and run I mean, I don't drive, but imagine I drove for a second and I went out and run someone over because I was, took my eyes off the road for a moment. I wouldn't be able to stand up in court and go, yeah, I'm sorry, but I am learning lessons about it. Yeah, but yet for these highly paid executives, nothing happens. They get paid 200 grand a year, and the worst they get is, oh, I'm going to resign. So no, that should not be a reason anymore. And it harks back to what someone was saying earlier in the comments about Hillsborough. Same thing there. A stadium disaster caused by the police, and no one's been held to account over that either.
Thank you. Laura, you've got a minute. And it wasn't just the housing, was it? It was the whole bloody system that was cockeyed on this one.
Yeah, I mean, God, you have all just took the words out of my mouth. I mean, essentially, the system is broken. It's criminally underfunded. It's just with horrific outcomes. And yeah, everything both Jane and Neil have said really just hits the nail on the head. At what point, what needs to happen for change to occur? It feels like we these things happen and we have really juicy headlines for a few weeks, and then it goes away, and then nothing happens, and it's really, really upsetting. It's angering. I don't know what needs to be done, because it's not like there isn't an outcry. There is absolutely an outcry. People are really upset and angry, and noticeably so, and yet we have a system that allows it to be brushed under the carpet. And the change needs to happen, as Neil said. I don't see a way in which that happens unless everything is publicly owned, properly funded. We get rid of a disastrous Tory government.
Chuck them in prison as well.
Well, yes.
And that's the end. Sort of what people need to understand, if I can just say one thing before we finish, is that this is what the Tories do. The Tories don't change anything. They make the right noises, soothing noises, and nothing changes because they're benefiting from the system as it is. And the first thing to do is to get those bastards out. And I realise that the people we're talking about putting in are sort of semi-bastards. But the first thing is we have to get rid of the Tories, and then we need to play hell until something happens. Who was the person who says we need to cause trouble, we need to get angry?
Kirsty, I think.
Mick Hill's really great points, Neil. Absolutely spot on about accountability. And that, I'm not going to let anybody to speak. I'll turn your microphones off. It's the end of the show. You've been absolutely brilliant. Thank you so, so much. Neil, you were on fire tonight. God bless you. Jane, everybody says lovely things about you. You're a straight talking woman, and my golly, we appreciate what you've had to say. And Laura, everybody getting excited that you're back. Laura's back. Laura's back. And sort of, and it's been my privilege to host. Goodbye, everybody. God bless to you. Laura, do you want to say something about what's coming up on? We've run out of time, really. Have you got anything to say to finish off?
Yes, please do subscribe to Socialist Think Tank over on YouTube, like us on Facebook, join our mailing list, become part of the team, get on the shows if you want to, keep spreading the love. We can't keep doing it without you. There's really no point, so please do get involved and find us on every platform, and look out for some amazing shows coming up. We've got some class ones lined up, and once they're all edited, you're going to absolutely love them, so don't go anywhere.
Thank you so much, and bye-bye. God bless you. God bless you.
The red flag flying here.